Chris Pauly and this is my Type Family Turbocron, which is inspired by 70s and 90s cars and their typography.
In mid-May 2021, I noticed my neighbor's black 90s Toyota Supra. Its clean lines were striking. I first tried to incorporate the lines of this car itself into type, but that was just the first step into a deep dive into the world of 70s, 80s, and 90s car typography. I sketched and sketched, inspired by what I was seeing. The surprising inspiration was the logo for Ampeg, a bass amp logo with a wonky hand-drawn Euro style. It felt like car type in a raw physical way. I iterated on an initial sketch, and I found out that by simplifying the details, the type as a whole felt stronger and faster. At the same time, I was obsessed with 80s and 90s scripts and sketched some of my own.
It just didn't feel like they were really part of the family, until I decided to force my script into the contrast model of the Sans. Some key design moments.
Graham wonders if I can incorporate more of the top-heavy angularity of my ampersand into my type. BJR wonders if I can keep the angularity of the type but stabilize select glyphs. Tobias Ferrer-Jones wonders if I can increase density in the sans by narrowing letters that don't hold space. James encourages me to carry on with the impossible task of making a script that is expressive and uniform. I think the final design works
for logos, websites and branding, and editorial use. Anytime you need a type that conveys strength and speed, with a foot in the late 20th century. Did I mention it's fast?
Hi, OCO. I'm Chris Skillern, and this is my project, Maylee. Maylee is a slightly unconventional type family inspired by my daughter and her love for children's books. It's a multi-script family that supports both the Latin alphabet and the Cherokee syllabary, and it consists of 3 styles intended to be used together: a lively pseudo-sans display style, a friendly and more restrained serif text face, and a text italic. The impetus for Maylee's design was playing around with a flat brush in the first week of our second term. The playful forms that emerged made me think of my daughter, who not only loves to read, but is also constantly making her own books. I thought of the picture books our family reads together, which often pair a playful typeface with a more straightforward text face, and use the two together in sentences. This gave me my concept. The first draft of the display style came together quickly, and while it underwent innumerable changes, the basic shapes were there from the beginning and harkened back to my flat brush sketches. Here's where the character set stands now. While the display style was the most fun to draw, I'm probably proudest of the text style, which actually turned into something that I feel comfortable using for longer blocks of text. It went through several versions before I landed on one that harmonizes well with the display. The italic has been the most challenging from a technical standpoint, but I'm getting there. Here are all of the styles together, and here they are in use. Finally, as a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, it was important to me to make the syllabary a centerpiece of my project, especially since there are so few typefaces that support Cherokee. I wanted to make something that could be useful for teaching the language to children. Oh yeah, and I drew emojis. Being a part of this program was a life-changing experience and a literal dream come true, and I can't say thank you enough to my wife and daughter and my whole family for their support. To our incredible instructors and TAs who've taught me so much, our wonderful workshop leaders, the other mentors who helped me along the way, and of course to my brilliant and super talented classmates who've become good friends over the course of the program, and whose work continually amazes me. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Claire, and this is my typeface matchstick. It's inspired by the inky pools that form at the beginning and end of calligraphic strokes. Currently there are 2 styles in the family, and the typeface is supposed to encourage mixing and matching of styles. Initially I kind of imagined the relationship between the light and italic to be sort of business in the front, party in the back sort of deal. From the beginning, I knew I wanted to do something that was playful and dynamic. I was experimenting a lot with the brush pen and ended up liking how the ink pools looked. And I was also revisiting a lot of whimsical childhood books and films at the time, and those two things really ended up informing the attitude of the family. Quick overview, here is the display light, and here is the display italic. I'm also hoping to push this idea of alternates. I came across this specimen by Fondry Turlot where the H, M, and N have descenders, which I thought was really unique and looked really lovely as well, so I wanted to translate that into my typeface. And I thought it would be interesting to maybe even bring in exaggerated descenders as well, especially in the G, and still considering how to kind of apply that to the other letters. And here's an example of those alternates in use. To wrap up, I would love to continue to expand the family and see how I can push the playfulness and look into how that could translate into different scripts. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Creighton and this is my project called Solvent. Solvent is a typeface inspired by style writing. I really was trying to capture the energy and expression of the early graffiti masters like Dondi and Duster. Solvent has 3 styles: upright, italic, and a bold italic. For part of my process, I use my pen plotter to plot the lowercase out and then try to match the capitals. I would also take screenshots and then kind of draw over to see if I could get the letters to emerge. Here are some of the major changes that I end up making. I kind of dropped the notch off of all the letters and then really tried to unify the weight and get the contrast feeling the same. I really liked working on the upright and the italic. The bold was very challenging. Solvent really seems to work better when set at a larger size. It's definitely a display type, but it does have some life and the spacing is getting better every time I work on it. For the italic style, I kept the notch in, which worked well at the regular weight, but was challenging to keep that same sort of feel in the bold weight. It was super fun to do some interpolation, and I can't wait to finish the character set. I sort of envisioned this being used on like a sticker or a decal, just sort of bold and expressive, just making a statement of a certain kind. But really, I want to say thank you to everyone involved at Type West, the students, the instructors, and it just was such a life-changing experience. Thank you so much.
Hi everybody, my name is Dirk and today I'm going to present to you the final project for my typeface program, which is called Home Cooked. Home Cooked is a casual sunset with typeface that is designed to explore the warmth and expressiveness of the brush, and it was born not in the kitchen as the name suggested, but actually from my bedroom in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. The concept for this typeface started with my fascination for the brush itself. I learned it from in the first term, and I really like its ability to capture a lot of the details that the hand produced, and I use it as a departure point for my project. And I started out with a G that has a lot of characteristic. I was trying to stay as faithful to the sketch as possible, but actually down the line, with the help of my very experienced instructor and peers, I was able to simplify the form down to somewhere that I'm pretty much happy with. And this is an overview of the family. The family has two styles. The text style that has the weight range from the regular all the way to the black, and also has the regular italic that accompany with it. And also it has a second style that is the display outline that also take the inspiration from the brush itself. And this is everything on a page. While the text style has a very standard width and proportion, I really had a lot of fun playing with the form and all the swirl in the display style. I don't really have a use case for the typeface, but I would really love it to be used in maybe an imaginary case where people produce their cookbook, because I really like the warmth and also it's very rounded. I think that the ideal use case for this typeface is going to be in an editorial setting. Thank you for listening. This is the end of my presentation.
Hello everyone, my name is Javier Plasencia DC and I'm based in San Francisco, California. Monasterio is the name of the type family that I developed during my time at Type West. It is a family of 4 display styles hung on 2 corners of a design space inspired by the typographer's scale and the tool. On one half is the upright Roman and an italic informed by the brush and fit for larger uses, while on the opposite end an optical interpretation of the Roman in a regular and bold weight playfully informed by the chisel. Ultimately, what I hoped to achieve with the scope of this project was a continuous sense of place in a type family despite a distinct set of constraints. I will admit the process for tackling this project was not linear and involved a lot of back and forth, repetitive cycles starting over at times and attempting different forks. However, some major lessons along the way that really came to define the project included understanding my pen's logic and defining a ductus, helped develop a voice that was more self-evident for the core of my type's family. Establishing and trusting one's system, especially when abstracting from a primary source, while defining the micro and microbold variants. Trying to create short feedback loops where possible, such as when trying to match the italic's rhythm to the Romans. And as a last step, ensuring that I committed to all of those things throughout the process without being afraid to turn the wheel when needed. Ultimately, Monasterio is a compact character set in its current state, but I do hope I can continue on fleshing out this project. As a second face, I'd love to experiment making a text face interpolated from its current spectrum and attempt to get something worthwhile. We'll have to see. It has been a true joy to have spent my time on something as giving as typography for a year, and I couldn't be more grateful for the energy all the teachers and students put into our time at Type West. Thanks for watching, and thanks to Letterform Archive once again.
Hi, my name is Jamie Otelsberg. I'm originally from Los Angeles. I spent a year in Germany and then returned to Kerala, South India, where I've been living for the last 14 years. After an 11-hour flight and during the 4-hour drive in the back of a bumpy taxi, my focus was on taking as many pictures as I could of the hand-painted ads and signs that lined the walls on the sides of the road. While driving through Ochira, this bus stop sign written in Malayalam really caught my eye. I was drawn to the forms and to the use of the brush angle that's typically used for Devanagari writing. I went immediately into quarantine, which gave me time to bust out the flat brush to see if I could come up with a type cooker recipe from this bus stop sign. What I discovered while trying to use the flat brush at this angle is that it created a lot of weight issues in letter joins. I worked on practicing brush rotation techniques to try and alleviate some of that. I quickly moved on to Sharpies and whiteout, then soon landed on my first digital prototype. During our Term 2 experimentations and crits, we were encouraged to try many variations and to push through our comfort zones. Our teachers asked us to draw our concepts in bold and to even push it to an extreme. I tried out many different things until I finally landed on a concept that started to feel good all around. It was pretty far from my original inspiration, and I came to understand that this was okay too. Teca is a casual Latin display type family with 3 upright styles, 3 italic styles, and 2 variable fonts. It's best used in display, but was made to work well in text settings too. During the design process, I imagined Teca would do well on packaging for local products, so I started making specimens early on. I naturally focused on snacks and drinks. In classical Indian music, Teca is the basic rhythmic pattern inside of a tal, which means time signature. Tal and teka are the underlying repeated patterns that shape the time cycle of the music. I'd like to give a special thanks to my TypeWest teachers, TAs, my amazing fellow students, to my family, and to the Letterform archive for this wonderful learning opportunity.
Hi, I'm Carla and this is my TypeWest 2021 project, Mother Quiz. My project started like many others. Inspired by the amazing workshop by Juan Villanueva of experimentation, I took as the basis of the project a lettering exercise that I developed during the workshop, inspired by the word mezcal and the drunkenness that this word had, combining two assignments together to create something unexpected, something fun, daring, organic, and sharp as mezcal could be. This assignment took me to try to develop this lettering style into a typeface, exploring the type family into something fun. As it was obvious, the project was simplified alongside the way to make the life of this project simpler, legible, and way more simpler for me to draw. Simplify, simplify, simplify. This project evolved into something else. However, there were many unfinished and wild things in this project that it was as if I was somehow intoxicated in all these shapes and letters. Thanks to the feedback from my teachers, I decided to take a step back from this project and continue simplifying these organic shapes into something else. I had to make decisions to see what to take back and what to eliminate from this project. In this case, I decided to keep the shape of the serifs, the horizontal stress of the letters, maintain and unify the curves in the stem, and use the typical translation axis when using the pen. By 8 and 9 weeks, the result wasn't a good point, sacrificing a little bit of serif to later add them to the next prototype. However, in this process, what suffered more changes was the axis of the pen. By week 10, I unified all the glyphs to a horizontal stress. By week 11, all these details were polished, but I used the same serifs as week 8 and 9, adding this more stability to the letters, and also sharpness was added in some parts of the letters to bring back some of the essence of the previous prototype. Although week 4 and 7 are very different from week 11, the process reveals the decisions at making the project, prioritizing certain feathers over others and increasing the weight and width of the letters to have a better consistency in their proportions. And this is Mother Quiz, a Mexican type family inspired on the endemic wild agaves used to elaborate mezcal in Mexico, designed to resemble nature. The type family consists of three varieties: the display, text, and the text italic. The display type having a brush exit, the text with a more stability form, and the italic combining the display and text styles together. This is how the character set look like alongside to the three styles. And this is how the typeface works with the three styles together, keeping all this horizontal stress on the pen in the text styles, but keeping it legible when it's used on a small format. Even if we have these wild organic letters, we can still be able to read them in small formats, making it perfect for any case. Thank you. And thanks to all my classmates, teacher assistants, teachers, thanks to all my Mocha family, thanks to TypeWest for giving me the opportunity to study type design for a whole year.
Emerald, a typeface inspired by the strength and flow in moving meditation. This abstract idea came from a scene that kept playing in my head. Imagine a person with unruly long hair creating powerful strokes with a giant brush. It's like an artist's way of meditation. I wish I had come up with that on my own, but I was probably influenced by the scene in the movie Hero. It accurately reflects what I had in my head. The core feature that remained the same since the beginning of the project is the single stroke construction of letters. The forms then gradually went from light to thick, straight to fluid, closed off to airy. The horizontal Latin set is the most versatile. It works best at a headline size, but even with its details, reads well in smaller paragraphs as I went through a lengthy simplification process. The monospace Latin set came after as an experimental extension. It's designed to be used vertically, but it looks interesting horizontally as well. The decision to pursue Hanzi was a more spontaneous one, and it's far from done, but this exercise was a great introduction to the script and piqued my interest to explore the relationship between Latin and Hanzi. I quite like the feeling of this typeface, and I'm hoping it inspires something else this year.
Hello everyone, my name is Matt Vlock and I'll be talking about my TypeWest project called The Hills. Last year, I spent a lot of time walking through the neighborhood I reside in Sacramento, California. The walks were meditative for me. What interested me the most were the big houses, the overgrown alleyways, the cracks in the concrete, and the wooden signs throughout the neighborhood. I originally made many drawings inspired by the concrete forms, the hilly landscape, and even abstractions of plants. I made a prototype each week, but what inspired me about this drawing were the hills and the serifs and the flag serifs. I started with a broad nib pen and basically took the strokes and abstracted them into these little hilly forms. Here you can see all of my masters or all of my styles that I started with. Here you can see my weights from fully bloated to regular. Here's more of the character set. And here you can see all of my styles typeset in smaller sizes and then in larger sizes here. And then these are some of my favorite details of the typeface. The rounded ink traps throughout, the funky ear on the G, and the worm-routed terminals on the S. Here you can see a book typeset in the hills, some posters, and a publication. And what's next? I'd love to develop a full Latin character set for the regular to fully bloated Roman styles and expand a larger character set on italic and monospace styles after that. I wanted to give a big thank you to TypeWest and the Letterform archive, all of my classmates, workshop instructors, and teachers. Thank you so much for such an amazing year. I can't wait for what's next. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Thank you for making the time to attend this TypeWest graduation. Now, this is Arcadia. An unconventional family of 3 distinct display styles inspired by video game stories. Due to the uniqueness of indie games, also known as independent games, I was inspired to develop a unique contrast axis as well. Thin to thick, cut out to outline, and wide to narrow. During my drawing process, I brought together these 3 sketches to map out Arcadia as a family. Then I experimented with the sketches to formulate the family's DNA. Here I use a block style as a base for drawing an outline style. Currently, this is the entire letter set of Arcadia's 3 styles. The styles are titled Mage, Tank, and Pawn. Each style evokes a role or character a player could choose in a video game. Arcadia is the video game world, and the styles are its characters. Here, I've written an imaginary prologue to Arcadia the video game, which reads as follows. In a realm far away in space and time, a rogue traveler comes upon the ruins of a future civilization. They sense someone's will arrive soon in an effort to terraform this unique landscape. Unfortunately for these excavators, the rogue traveler has chosen to arrive at this exact moment to stop the dig. Rogue is here to sabotage this intergalactic development jointly sponsored by private funders and the public sector. Stakes are high, morality is low. Here I have drawings of notification messages, of which each evoke the personality of a different video game character. I imagine my fonts used for cutscenes, dialogue boxes, or quest information typeset in wide video game console screens, such as the Nintendo Switch. In the future, I plan to add more diacritics. My initial design concept favored highly reduced forms, so being able to incorporate diacritics has been a puzzle. But I'll keep working at it. And that's it. Thank you for everybody for a wonderful year, and enjoy the rest of the graduation presentations.
Vanna is a type family characterized by flowing forms which give it a rhythmic texture. It is made for use in branding and packaging and expressive publications like a museum catalog. In the beginning, we were encouraged to explore different tools and ideas, but honestly, at this point, I just wanted to make something cool. I was exploring ways to twist the parallel pen, and with the first sketches, I felt like there could be something here. That first sketch evolved very quickly from a psychedelic vibe to a reverse contrast, then to something completely different and far more exciting. Once I had the forms with the rhythm that I wanted, I translated it into the bold weight. Then I created a text style based on the same forms and used both those to inform the fourth italic style. The breaking point of this project was when Juan Villanueva questioned if the display idea could evolve beyond my original plan of pairing it with a sans. He urged me to rethink my concept. So I redrew and drew and drew and drew, and that's when I came up with the existing family plan. These 4 styles currently make up the type family. The display bold is ideal set in words, short phrases, and large headlines. While the display regular is also intended to be used at large sizes, it works even set in text passages where its texture can flourish. The regular and italic text styles expand the scope of the type family beyond its display use. I'd like to thank my instructors for guiding me through this, to Juan Villanueva, Maria Deruli, and Furkozy, to my classmates for being a constant support, and to the Letterform archive for making this all possible. Thank you so much.
Bruce Slab is a slab serif family inspired by type created by the Bruce Foundry and the quirky character of early grotesques, with geometric elements added to the design for a contemporary spin. Contrast and fast curves are some of the key characteristics that connect the styles, the latter adding to the overall geometric quality of the design. The family currently contains a thin, regular, italic, and display black. The project started as a study of weight, width, and contrast, looking at how to design for different extremes in order to arrive at a cohesive family that can accommodate a range of type sizes, from a poster to a paragraph of text. The family is designed to work well in editorial applications where the range of styles allow for different narrative voices to come through at different scales and settings, all while remaining visually similar. And that's Bruce Slab. Thanks for the support and guidance throughout the year.
Hi, I'm Ryan Hudson, and this is my project Tannery. Tannery is a type family that revisits 20th century American book jackets to explore how particular lettering traits can be distilled across a typeface. It draws inspiration from the idiosyncratic qualities of lettered pieces across the works of W.A. Dwiggins, George Salter, and Philip Grushkin. Currently, the family includes 4 styles: headline, headline italic, text regular, and text bold. The initial style, the headline, began by pulling in characteristics from the aforementioned source material and continually exploring how to simplify forms and distance itself from the broad nib pen. The italic pairing contrasts with swooping gestures to add an additional voice to the family. The text style shares the same DNA as the display but has been redrawn to make it more functional at smaller sizes. The bold text style adds additional weight to the regular skeleton, providing yet another voice and typographic tool. Although both text styles work well at smaller sizes, they also offer enough character to be expressive at larger scales. The variety in styles provide a toolkit that can be used in a number of applications, such as logotypes or editorial layouts, both together or separately. Thank you to everyone that makes the Letterform archive possible, all the wonderful instructors, and the best classmates.
Bench is an extension of my interest in exploring how digital fabrication methods such as CNC milling can be used to create novel forms of letterpress wood type. Bench has a variable display and display italic with weights ranging from regular to black, and a small but growing set of ornaments and borders. There is also a text version of the typeface, not necessarily intended for wood type production, but to expand the possible applications of the typeface. Banch is a bit of a contradiction, seeking speed of production which sits in opposition to the process of making wood type today, something that is the work of a craftsperson, the result of a luxury of time and by no means fast. Banch attempts to hasten the process by minimizing the tedium of tool changes and additional tooling while simultaneously embracing an interest to make smaller type. The smaller the type, the less wood needed for a full font. With small sizes in mind, Banch's forms were designed for production with use of either a 16th inch or 1/32nd inch end mill on a pantograph or CNC router. The regular weight can be produced as small as 18 point using a 1/32nd inch end mill. Its black weight can be produced as small as 3-line pica using the same end mill, functioning a bit like optical sizing. Early drafts of Banch explored deriving its letter forms from carving using a V-bit, as well as forms that required as little tooling and movement as possible. These experiments, however, were put aside in favor of tying Banch closer to the forms of historic wood type. Early draft forms of the typeface were inspired by heavy Clarendons, while its final form drew inspiration from Tuscans. Ultimately, its curved forms are partly an endeavor to make it warm and inviting, less mechanical, and perhaps a little boisterous. To take the guesswork out of side bearings or block height, a Python script was used to create a knockout version of the typeface, making fabrication easier, whether for the router or other fabrication methods such as laser cutting or etching and 3D printing. Whether used for broadsides or editorial, Banch sits somewhere at the crossroads of the 21st and 19th century. Its forms optimized for production, imbued with impatience, and embracing contradiction.
Hi, I'm Sasha Hobson, and I'm presenting my Typewest typeface Spades. Spades is a display typeface with expressive ink traps and sharp serifs that has 5 weights ranging from thin to black. Spades is inspired in part by the Black arts movement and sci-fi cinema, leveraging both of these styles as a Project North Star. Spades is named after and pays homage to a series of work by David Hammons. It exudes style, yet incorporates utilitarian principles, which allows it to function at large and small sizes. I've always been drawn to minimal typefaces that exude modernism and ultra-expressive typefaces with high impact. For this final project, I tried to develop a typeface that exists within the contradictions of these two ideas. In exploration, I became fascinated with ink traps, something originally designed for legibility and printing in small sizes. I became interested in abstracting their function. I wanted the ink trap to turn into a design element that no longer serves that purpose that it was originally intended for. Here are a few of my favorite moments of Spades. And lastly, I wanted to say thank you to classmates and teachers. This has been an amazing year, and I'm sad that it's coming to an end, but I'm hoping that the community built over this year continues to grow. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shessa, and this is my project, Thumbelina. Thumbelina Display is a serif family that includes italic and heavy styles filled with warm magic. It is inspired by uncial letterforms, folklore, and forest plant life. The typeface is intended for branding and editorial uses. And the name is inspired by the classic fairy tale Thumbelina, paired with my sister's name, Lena. Features include angled rounds and a strong diagonal rhythm, as well as old-style numerals. Some of the challenges I faced were simplifying the recipe, spacing those extra diagonals, and translating the recipe to italic. My process started in the first term with a type cooker sketch that evolved into the current design. Part of my process also included testing this typeface on Rizzo, a medium that I intend to use it on later on. Here's a snapshot of my italics as well, and how they evolved throughout the course of the term. Next, I hope to add more characters, potentially add another script, and definitely experiment with Rizzo some more. Some of the musings I've had since finishing the program are, can type design be a medium for world building? And can design systems be more like ecosystems? Thank you to everybody who helped me this year, including Graham, James, Nina, Juan, my classmates, and the Letterform archive staff.
Hello, I am Tamara and this is Sorry, my typeface for TypeWest 2021 project. Sorry has been a roller coaster of its own. A lot of trial and error was made. One would think that this process just happens at the very beginning, but no, it goes all the way up to the finish line. During our second term, we were asked to create as many prototypes and family explorations of those as we consider necessary. So, exactly what I did. I sketched a bunch of things and went into deeper exploration for those who might have a nearby future. Plot twist, they hadn't. Or maybe they did, but they weren't doing it for me at this point. But about halfway through the term, I decided to start from scratch. I tossed aside my prototypes and I started thinking about those things that I haven't tried before. This was when I remember a workshop I took where we had to draw and stick to different prompts. What did I do? Made myself 52 black squares, set 2 rules using only 2 shapes to carve, and I could only rotate the shape at 0, 45 or 90 degrees. I tried this a couple of times with the slight changes in the cutouts, and that's how I got here. Surprisingly, this had gotten me out of my comfort zone, and I felt like I was really doing something that I would never do if I sat down and sketched something from math instead of the light. So I kept going. I drew the uppercase for both exercises and the lowercase for the one I thought I was most inclined to. Once I finished, the result was definitely a very hard, square and stable set of letters. I knew this blocky thing wasn't going to be viable, but for me it was the minimum I needed to pique my interest enough to start exploring, sketching and refining what I had. As weeks went by, it evolved into something much warmer. Yet, it still kept the charm that drew me in from the original experiment. One of the many challenges I faced was making it variable. My ultra weight is so expressive, which is something that was really hard to keep in such a thin and contrasting axis. Sorry, a jaunty variable type family ranging from the ultra to the light, perfect for display use and shorter text in need of an extra kick. One of the first things that I loved about this family is the bubbly personality it has. Even after the harder shapes it started with, it shifted into something that feels really soft and approachable, never boring. The display, at its heaviest, is when the typeface stands out the most. It's like the warmth during a cold day. Very friendly, rounded, and with a very strong and set personality. Never a dull moment. In contrast, in the lightest weight, some of the features get toned down because of its airiness, but it does not lose one bit of its uniqueness. In text, it's the perfect companion for the display. A swift and soft text typeface to complement the strong voice of the display with a mind of its own. A nice, kind sans. Even though Sorry started as an experiment in subtraction, it ended up as so much more than that, a joyful and usable family for many different contexts. Finally, I would like to thank everyone who was involved in this process, teachers, TAs, classmates, family, friends, and everybody who had kind things to say during these crazy times.
Hi everyone, my name is Vanna Vu, and my project is a font collection called Ambi. It currently consists of an abstract brush style and a more scalable sans. The font collection structure is inspired by Vietnamese American food and restaurant typography, which combines fonts from different genres. I didn't want to distill this typography into a grayscale of one style, of one voice, but instead attempt to create a collection of fonts, each style with a distinct purpose and tone. I decided to design with an editorial application in mind to extend the typographic language into another context. It is a way of asking how presenting seemingly unrelated fonts together affects typography and in turn visual culture. What does the structure of a type system say and reflect? For the styles themselves, I started from flat brush lettering and digital sketches. I also wanted to figure out a way to capture the fluid and sharp character of flat brush lettering in a typographic rather than imitative way. Often my sketches come out friendly and bouncy. I wanted to see if I was capable of capturing a different personality. Spending more time sketching in the font editor helped forms feel more typographic. The italic started from a style of writing that filled a lot of my sketchbook. The more I worked on it, the more it didn't feel like it was meant to be typed. Keeping a similar triangular looping, I sketched over my sans. After analyzing my digitizations, I started building from a system of overlapping an upright skeleton with a slanted one. It was an abstract way of constructing translation and rotation, which clicked with my brain more. I was also curious how this could communicate an ambiguity or in-betweenness in terms of font genres. My friend V.E. Chen used my font without knowing the context of it, and it was cool to see that they chose to use a third font of a different genre. Thank you for listening, and once again, thank you to everyone part of Type West.